Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Noon Knowledge this afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Um, my name is Sandy Ratliff. I'm with Virginia Community Capital, and we're happy to partner in this series with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator, and the town of Abingdon. This is a program that we've been doing since 2014 to support our Washington County Business Challenge. And by the way, we announced the winners last week for our 7th annual challenge. I know that the COVID-19 is hurt. This pandemic has hurt many businesses, and it's been a challenging 2020, the last 3 months. But one of the things that we've been trying to do is continue our educational series and help you gain new knowledge and new skills as we move forward out of this pandemic. Now, before we get started, I wanted to note that in order to keep the webinar flowing and to stay within our 1 hour time frame, we have muted everyone. However, we want to hear from you, and I know that our presenters also want to hear from you. So if you have a question, if you will please post those in the Q&A section, we will address those at the end of the session. I'm excited for our lineup today. We've got 2 experienced folks that have been working in and taking advantage of online commerce for a number of years. First off will be Barry Myers. Barry's with Strongwell, but also on his side job as he's been buying and selling for a number of years, and he will tell you more about that. And then joining Barry today is Sheila Rohr. Sheila owns the UPS store in Abingdon, but also has buys and sells on the side. So both of these individuals have experience in online sales, and we are delighted to have them join us. So again, if you have questions, if you'll please post those in the Q&A section, we will definitely get to those. But Barry, I will turn the screen over to you.
Very good. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm hopeful that everybody is now able to see Why Go Online. Is everyone able to see my screen okay?
Yes, it looks good.
Perfect. Thank you, Sandy. So the obvious first question is why go online? And I'll talk more about why I chose to do it and what I do with it in a bit. But the really obvious answer is that, well, you're here-ish, and your customers can be here. I mean, there's really no limit to the customers you can serve geographically, and lately especially we've looked at things a lot differently in trying to serve our customers. If you're already in business, and if you consider getting in business, you realize how important it is to be able to reach them when you can't physically go and shake a hand and show someone an object and say, hey, here's what I have, here are the wares that I'm offering, would you like to buy them? So I first gave this presentation, and I actually did it remotely. I was in Kentucky on business, and Sandy asked me to speak to a group for this kind of a series. And so I've already done this presentation online, but that was pre all this mess world. And I don't want to focus on this mess, but I do want to focus on what you can accomplish online. And let's talk about that a little more here. So this is numbers that I just pulled last week, and U.S. retail e-commerce sales for the first quarter of 2020, so that's January, February, March, were about $160 billion. And of those, e-commerce, and of all of that number, 1.36 trillion was the overall retail sales. So I'm really good at math, and I can do a division. And that division problem told me that almost 12% of all selling was done online. Now, if you look at that number second quarter, I suspect it's going to be a lot higher. Think about that. 12% of all business. And if you think about what you're buying right now, think about how much of it you're doing online. So Sandy initially asked me to focus in my initial presentation back in November on 3 of the big platforms, and I'm going to do that again here. But I want you to understand that the process is much the same. The basics are much the same. It's just trying to get the right vibe, the right feeling for what you're trying to sell and where you're trying to sell it. So let's move ahead. The first thing you need to understand is the basics are really just that, and that's all we're going to cover today. But I want to prompt Q&A. Okay, so that's the point. We're going to talk so that you can ask the right questions, and hopefully between Sheila and myself we can give you some guidance. First thing to remember is online business is still business. My wife and I have been doing online business for about 10 years now. We started in 2010 with her little blog, which has now grown to where it's twice the size of my day job with Strongwell. And I am the corporate marketing director for Strongwell. If you're not familiar with us, we're based in Bristol with a plant in Abingdon, and we're an industrial manufacturer. My day job helps me a lot with my other stuff and vice versa. Online business is still business. You're still conducting business. The second thing to remember is that the platform matters, but you need to let your products and the community and the vibe that you have decide which platform that you go with. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. The third thing to remember, you're rarely going to win on price. There's always going to be somebody who will sell it cheaper than you, with very few exceptions. If you think about that, think about all these international suppliers. A lot of times they're coming from an AliExpress or another international Chinese primarily driven source, that if you're just trying to sell widgets, then chances are somebody's willing to sell it at a lower price than you. So don't just look at price and say, oh, I can sell that. Differentiation then is the key. You're trying to win because you're different for some other reason. Now, maybe it is price, maybe that's a way you win, but whether you're buying and selling something that you hand make, or something that you manufacture, or something that you resell, or heck, something you find in your basement, you need to differentiate in some way, because you're truly in a global market. Anyone and everyone who possibly has that other thing that you're trying to sell, the same thing that you've got, you're not normally going to be able to beat them just because you have it and nobody else does, because somebody else probably does. Remember shipping costs, and Sheila's going to talk a lot about this. They're only getting higher. There is just a lot of pain associated with trying to figure out shipping, and Amazon has ruined us all. We expect Amazon to be the norm for everybody else, when 2-day free shipping is not free shipping for the people who are selling, and it's not 2-day for the people who are selling. There's a lot of challenge there. I'll leave most of that talk to Sheila. So keep things simple and take one step at a time. That is the really big takeaway here. These bullet points are important, but they really are just the basics. So let's talk about what this looks like if we're keeping it simple. You sign up for an account somewhere, and that could be a platform that you host yourself, like on maybe you have a WordPress site and you add a WooCommerce plugin to try to sell on your own. Maybe you go to an eBay, an Amazon, an Etsy, whatever, a platform that's already out there, and you decide to add your wares to it. You sign up for an account. Second, you create listings, and don't forget that this simple step has a ton of important sub-steps in it. We'll look at that in a moment. Third, you manage customer service. Just like you would if you have a brick and mortar retail store, you're going to have to deal with customers who have questions, or who have complaints, or who have commendations, or who have whatever else. You still have to deal with customer service, and then you earn money. See, it's that simple. Just like setting up a retail shop. If you're in a retail shop right now, isn't it so super easy? You just find a building, you put stuff in it, or have a service that you offer. You get people to come in the store, they're happy or they're not, and then you earn the money. It's just super simple, right? Being a business owner is a piece of cake. Or not. But let's move on. Let's get into a little bit more specifics. Photos and descriptions. We've all seen this done well, and we've all seen this done poorly. Customers won't give you the chance to answer their questions later. I'm going to say that again. Customers won't give you a chance to answer their questions later when you have an item that you put out there. And I mean that seriously. Let's take a look at an example. This is actually a listing I took off of Poshmark. If you don't know what that is, it's a site that you can buy and sell used clothing, generally used. Now let's take a look. We've got this lovely picture taken with a potato, and you've got this lovely description. Let's have a look here. This Kenneth Roberts Platinum utility jacket in rich chocolate brown is luxuriously fur-lined, including inside the sleeves to keep you extra warm. Well, you can read, but keep going. Tell me what information is not there. There's no sizing, although the previous slide does say it's a large. Awesome. But there's nothing useful that tells you dimensions. There's nothing about the photos that give you what you really need to know about how it looks, and is that a true representation of color. You don't have a white to compare it to in the background, for example, or a given tone. The photo's awful. The description's awful. Are you going to buy this? And notice they're asking $45. Is that a good value or not? I don't know, but I'm surely not buying it. Now let's compare that. This is a listing off of a different used clothing website. Now let's take a look. The photos, crisp and clear. on a background that is not confusing as to really, it's not distracting me away from what the object is because it is distinctively enough different. It tells me what the product name is. It's a Paul & Sharp men's XL full whatever. Notice then they say run small fits like a large, but they go even a step further. Notice the way they said it. Measurements. All items were measured in a flat lay position. Now you may not be selling clothing, but doggone it, if you're selling something where the size matters, the fit matters, then you can't try this on. You're going to either decide to buy it or not. You're going to get it home. You're going to then put it on and say, ugh, or you're going to be happy. It tells you the measurements. It tells you that the note of potential size variations. It tells you the materials. And then it says, hey, don't forget to check out our other stuff. Now, this is so super simple and basic. But guess who I'm buying from? Am I buying that luxurious brown jacket with all the fancy words that don't really tell me anything that matter? I work in marketing, and that's just marketing garbage. Don't fall for the language. Instead, look at those details. If you're selling an object or an item online, either be very, very, very specific or be prepared to not sell it. It's truly that simple. Be very specific because you're not going to get that whole second chance to make a first impression. That applies here. They're not going to ask you a bunch of questions unless they can't find that product easily somewhere else. And then they're still going to say, well, I really, really want it. Maybe not. Be specific. Okay, I hope I've gotten that beat into you clearly enough. So, photos matter. And in modern times, there is no excuse for bad photos. We all have this. We all have a phone. And no phone out there that I'm aware of that in modern times can take a bad photo. It's usually user error, or it's time to upgrade your phone, or just buy a camera. There's no excuse for bad photos. Second, descriptions matter. Too much is not too much. If you think about when you're trying to make a purchase, if you give really good information in your headings and then give a lot of detail in your subheadings and then copy and paste into other listings that you may do, be very diligent with this. Don't skimp because too much is not too much. And then third, think about what questions you're going to ask and answer them in advance with the photos and descriptions you give. I have been looking a lot recently on various websites trying to buy stuff because for a while stores were closed and then stores were open again, but do I really want to go in that store? Do I want to be exposed to the people? Do I want to be exposed to the regiment of standing away from everybody and going a certain way down an aisle and all the stuff? The answer is no. So I've been spending a lot of time online buying stuff as a customer, and people have been buying more from me online. And so what questions would I want to ask about a product? Answer them. Don't wait for your customer to ask them. And if you do happen to get the question, update your listing with the answer. Be sure to make sure every question is answered. Again, I can't overemphasize this because it doesn't matter the platform. It doesn't matter your approach. It doesn't matter what you're selling. You need to get this out of the way. And that's true whether you're offering a service or a product. Now, photos are a little different. I get it. But you need to be thinking about whether it's a service or a product, very specifically outlining what it covers, what they're expecting to receive, set the expectations clearly, and then move on. So let's move on a little bit. I know Q&A is going to sort of be toward the end. So please, if you have questions, throw them in the Q&A, and that way we can be sure to address them toward the end. I also know I'm moving fairly quickly. So this, I hope, it is being recorded. I can see that. So hopefully that's going to be shared so you can jump back if you need to be looking at something again. So let's talk about platforms. If you think about platforms, then there are, again, a bunch of ways to get this done. I'm talking about 3 because everybody pretty much knows what they are and how they work, at least on a basic level. So let's start off with eBay. When I say eBay, all of you are probably thinking, what am I going to do on eBay? Well, personally, if I think about eBay, I think about stuff out of my basement that I don't want anymore. I think about mass quantities of a widget that I would just sell as, batteries. I buy batteries, watch batteries, and that kind of stuff off of eBay all the time. I think about all that kind of stuff, collectibles, all those kinds of things. But let's jump in a little bit more. eBay's been around a while. eBay's been around since 1995. I joined up as a seller on eBay in 1998 and have sold, I don't even know how many thousands of things on eBay. Thousands and thousands. There are 182 million registered buyers. So your options for selling something are very large. You got plenty of potential customers, and there are 1.3 billion, and of course that varies widely, number of active listings. So you've got a lot of people that are potentially buying a lot of potential stuff. Is there anybody on here who hasn't bought from eBay? I suspect not. Everybody, when you think, oh, I know what eBay is, if you haven't, then go to ebay.com, and I promise you're going to spend some time looking around because, oh my goodness, you can find everything from baseball cards that you had when you were a kid all the way up to modern technology items, or heck, you can buy a car or a jet or take your pick. It's all there. So let's jump a little bit further and say, okay, if I'm going to sell there, what are my options? Well, you can set up a personal account, and I've noticed there that it's free, and it's sort of just for selling extra stuff, and it's a traditional eBay account. If I'm going to buy, then I set up a personal account, but I can sell also. You can also set up a business account that's also free if you're selling as a business, but you may not want a storefront, and there's slight differences. I won't get into the details, but those are a couple different variations. Or you can set up an eBay store, and there are fees associated with that per month. Normally, they're as low as $5, although they normally start around $20 a month and go up to $3,000 a month just for the fees to have an eBay store. But you get a lot of perks, and I've got them as bullet points there. It's not just the same thing as a personal or a business account. It's I really am going to sell on eBay as my platform. Now, nothing wrong with there, with the choice you make, but you do have to understand what you're going to earn as well. With eBay, you have to pay an insertion or a listing fee. You have to pay a final value fee, and you also have to pay a payment processing fee. The type of account that you have dictates what you pay. The number of items that you sell and what category they go in dictates what you pay. So you got to do a little research here and sort of think about what you might sell. I won't get into the details beyond all this is being recorded, all this is going to be made available to you. If you think about eBay, recognize that you do have costs associated with selling. Your cost of goods sold can be a pretty big chunk. On average, it's 10 to 25% of what you sell on eBay is going to be paid in fees. And it's that simple. Plus you have shipping, of course. All right. You have categories, as I mentioned, and it varies by category. Again, I've put this in here as a reference for you, so you'll have it for later on. Okay? There are some limitations. As I mentioned, fees can be fairly high. And although most of the buyers on the US, most of your large sellers are not. So pricing becomes a consideration, and shipping speed and price becomes a differentiator here. If you're trying to make a ton of money, maybe eBay isn't for you unless you truly have something unique or difficult to find elsewhere. The reputation of eBay, as we probably all have in the backs of our minds, is for bargains. Use random stuff out of the garage or inexpensive items unless it's rare or collectible. So is that platform right for you? I don't know, but it's an option. Let's move on to Etsy. Etsy's a platform that hadn't been around nearly as long. It's been around since 2005, and I've been selling on Etsy since about 2007. There's 39.5 roughly million buyers and about 60 million listings. So it's a much smaller platform, but Etsy was founded specifically for the purpose of buying and selling homemade DIY items, craft fair kind of items. Now it has expanded the past couple of years, in the past few years, I guess, it has expanded to where you can also sell craft supplies, and that's sort of cheapened the platform a bit, but it still is a viable platform to sell things. I love woodworking. I love to make sawdust in my shop, and occasionally I turn a pin or I make a gadget or a thing in my wood shop. I sell it on Etsy. That's the purpose of Etsy for me. And that's pretty common. It's things that are homemade, things that are made at home or in a shop or by a small business that are sold. And that's the purpose primarily. You can be an Etsy shop owner. Standard is free. That's what I generally have. It doesn't cost anything. It's just, that's what you're going to sign up for if you're buying on Etsy. You also can set up a Plus account, which is $10 a month, and that gives you a few perks, sort of like the eBay. You can grow to where you get a few more benefits. There's also a premium account that has been talked about a lot. When I gave this presentation in November, it was just on the cusp of happening, but it has been put on hold indefinitely because for whatever reason, there's been a lot of pushback. So Etsy, you have a lot fewer options. It's a lot more simple, but what do you earn? Just like the other eBay platform that we've talked about, and any other platform, you're going to have cost of goods sold. You're going to pay a listing fee. Every time you list an item, it's 20 cents. Not too bad, depending on what you're listing. Every time you sell something, you're going to pay 5% of the sales price, including shipping. And then you're also going to pay a payment processing fee of 3% plus a quarter. So you're going to have similar to a merchant rate on your credit cards, You're going to have all those things. So if you add that up, it can be significant. I mean, if you think about it, you're at over 8% just in your final value and your payment processing fee. So generally on Etsy, I end up bargaining about 10%, budgeting about 10%, excuse me, of what I sell to cover my basic costs, and then I add in the shipping. I do try to ship a lot of items on Etsy for free because that is something that has become expected there, but I'm generally shipping small items that I can ship first class USPS package, so it's $5 or less for me to ship it. So I just pad that into my price and move on. So what are some limitations? Well, there are some limitations as to what you can sell. As I mentioned before, you can only sell handmade items made by you or a member of your team, as Etsy defines it. Craft supplies or vintage items. Now, vintage items is another one of those categories that Etsy has gotten some flack over because, well, what does that mean? Well, Etsy defines it as something that is 20 or more years old. Great. It's basically an online craft fair. If you think about going to a craft fair or a really high-end flea market, if you're in Abingdon, if you think of Mistletoe Market, then you're sort of thinking in the right vein, and you can understand what you're going to sell and what is going to be for sale out there. Lots of casual shoppers. People come to Etsy all the time, including myself, to get ideas of things I could make. There's a lot of potential as well for negotiation and bargaining. It's very common if I'm going to buy 10 or 20 of an item, I'll reach out to the seller and say, hey, if I'm going to buy 20 of these, how much better can you do on the price? Again, just like a craft fair. There's often also questions about customization or personalization. I got an Etsy order this morning for a lady who wanted a particular item, and it's a small little essential oil holder made out of wood. She wanted made out of oak. She wanted to have a particular word imprinted on the side of them, and she wanted 3 of them. I didn't have that in my standard listings, but I do sell essential oil little wooden racks. So she messaged me. We agreed on the details, a few messages back and forth. I gave her a custom order price. She has made the purchase, and so now I have to get to work. I have those things to make, and I've given her a timeline in which to make them. So you do have some options there that you don't have with eBay, but understand it is sort of like a craft fair. I know I'm going fast, but let's move on to Amazon. Amazon, if you haven't heard anything about Amazon or bought anything on Amazon, come out from under a rock. I mean, everybody has dealt with Amazon. Love them or hate them, they are the force. Now, Walmart.com, I was reading an article yesterday that Walmart.com is really starting to grow. Look out, Amazon was the subject of the article, but guess what? Amazon has become massive. It's been around since 1994, and if you remember back that long, what did they sell? Books. The first time I ever heard of Amazon, people were saying, oh, it's a place where you can go buy books. And then when I was in college, it was, oh, guess what? They have a place where you can buy textbooks. Oh, guess what? You can buy this thing called a Kindle and buy books that are digital. How weird is that? And then guess what? Now, what can't you buy on Amazon? Well, some stuff you would buy on Amazon on Etsy, and some stuff that you might buy on eBay. But pretty much everything. There's 197 million visitors per month to Amazon, and that grew actually. This is a number from early 2020. Half basically of all e-commerce traffic is going to Amazon. It's insane. There's over 350 million products for purchase. And again, that varies quite a bit, but it grows, and as of late, it has grown a lot. So what does that mean? You can buy and sell pretty much anything, but there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of potential buyers. Think about that. It's a big platform. You've got a few different options as a selling account here as well, though. You can have an individual account, which means it's free, and it's for very low volume sellers. So Amazon calls that less than 40 items per month. I don't sell a lot on Amazon. I've been selling on Amazon for probably the past 5 or 6 years just because I could resell some books that I didn't want and just because I can resell a few small items. But realistically, Amazon is not the place for me. A few different reasons. We'll get in that in a minute, actually. Well, you also have a professional account. It's about $40 a month, and it's for higher volume sellers. And basically your perk there is you get more categories. As an individual seller, I don't get to sell every potential thing I might want to sell on Amazon that's available. I'm pretty limited to what I can offer versus what I cannot. However, there's some downsides here. What do you earn? Well, there's a 99-cent per item listing fee if you have an individual account like me. There's a referral fee of a percentage of the selling price, but notice it's 3 to 96%. Literally, Amazon may claim 96% of what you sold if that you sell in a certain category. Then there's shipping fees, And then there's variable closing fees. And I put that in quotes because, oh my goodness, there's lots of fine print to review and a link there that I'll let you jump into if you need some nighttime reading to go to sleep. The point is, it's really expensive, and there are some limitations. The high seller fees make it a really attractive market for Amazon, but everybody else is there, so why aren't you? That's the question that often comes up. Why do I not want to sell on Amazon? Oh my goodness, everybody else is on Amazon. There's a lot of limitations there. It's also extremely price competitive. If you don't already know this, you can get browser plugins like Honey or others that will automatically find the lowest price of something on sale on Amazon. And if you're not it, you're probably not selling it. You also have Prime shipping, which is a two-edged sword. It's great because everybody expects to get the free 2-day shipping. It's terrible because you as the seller have to pay for 2-day shipping. And then there's also a history of volatility. Amazon will never just say, hey, in 6 months, we're going to change something that won't be to your advantage. You'll get an email, and then guess what? Pretty much immediately, something's changed. And if you want to be on that boat, you have to agree to the fees. I know I'm sort of talking down about Amazon, but there's a lot of problems with selling on Amazon if that you don't want to just play their game. Last thing I'll say, because I know my time is up. This is a massive talk that we could spend days on. You need to understand, and the reason I laid out the slides the way I did, is that every single one of the platforms that you could potentially sell on have their pros and cons. Every single one of them, if you do a Google search on how to sell on such and such, you're going to find good content. Research. Understand what you're trying to sell. Think about as a potential buyer what kind of vibe that might put off. Again, if I'm selling craft fair-like items, Etsy is an obvious choice. Move on to those kinds of platforms. Learn a lot about them. Know their limitations. Plug your cost of goods sold and the fees and all that good stuff into your selling price, and then be ready to get on the platform. So I hope that's helpful. And I know I went quickly, but those are some of the key takeaways. And I'm going to stop my screen share and hand it back over to Sandy.
Wow, that was some fantastic information. I know I learned a lot, and I really didn't know. I'm an Amazon customer, but I didn't realize how much they put or what they put the sellers through. Gives me a whole new, I guess, thought on that. Just a reminder, if you've got questions for Barry, please put those in the Q&A section, and we will address those at the end of the presentations. Next up is Sheila Rohr. Sheila, as I said earlier, is with the UPS store in Abingdon. And Sheila, I will direct your slides. You just tell me when you want to move, and I will do that. So thanks for joining us.
I guess the next slide would be where we can get started. Shipping is a big part of selling online. And before you really start, you need to be asking yourself a lot of questions. One of them is, what are you selling? Are you going to be selling multiples of the same kind of thing? Or are you going to be selling a little of this, a little of that? What are the price ranges of your items? What's the size and weight of your items? Are you selling soft, non-breakable? Or are you selling things that are breakable or extremely fragile? All of these things come into what you end up paying for shipping. If you are a storefront, if you have a brick and mortar store, naturally you have several things in there that you know sell pretty good. And what you might want to do is pick out the smaller items, because shipping is based upon size, weight, and destination. And if you start selling inexpensive items that are large, you're not going to sell them because your shipping is going to be more than what the item would cost. You need to learn how to measure boxes. You can have a box that might say it's a 6 cube, but when you start putting those into the platform, you're going to want to add an inch to every dimension because box sizes are the internal sizes. And if it even goes 1/4 of an inch over, then when it's measured by the shipping companies, it then becomes another, and it could make your shipping more than what you estimated. Size and weight. If it gets much over a 12 cube box, then it's going to go based on what they call dimensional weight, which is the size of your box. Thinking about things, you need to be thinking about what's going to be easy for me to do. If I'm going to be shipping multiples, then it's going to be much easier because I can get my supplies in, I can order some boxes that fit what I'm selling, and I'll be ready to go. If you're selling a shirt one day and a toy airplane the next day, you're going to be running around scrounging to try and find what am I going to pack this in. The benefits of having multiples, again, is it's very easy. You can, you know what you're going to be doing. You're not trying to figure size and weight every single time. Also, when you get into high value, which is high value is considered to be $1,000 or more, but if something is over $100, you get into determining whether or not to put additional declared value or insurance on the items. And the other thing we ran into at the store this year is that there's a thing called hazardous materials. And we ran into this with everybody wanting to ship hand sanitizer to people across the country. And it clearly says on a bottle of hand sanitizer, it's flammable. That makes it a hazardous material. You have to have a license to be able to ship it. So when you're considering what you're going to ship, make sure you're reading the labels and you are researching the various shipping sites to see what might not be able to ship. Okay, next slide. Anytime you're shipping, you want to think about, how am I going to pack this? How am I going to keep it safe to go? And there's a lot of different types of shipping packaging materials. One is poly bags. And you use these if you're putting multiples of small things. Say you're selling key rings and somebody's buying 6 of them. You could put all of these in a poly bag together. They don't get lost in the packaging. And when you wrap bubble wrap around it, it keeps it very safe. You can even use Ziploc bags to do that particular thing. If you are shipping soft things, if you're selling t-shirts or embroidered pillowcases or something that's soft, can't be damaged, then bubble mailers or poly mailers are the best bet, because you slide them in and it's usually less expensive to ship them. The third thing that you can get into is free U.S. postal supplies. What you need to know about this is that it's only available for priority mail, which is more expensive, and the if it fits, it ships boxes are only a good choice if you're shipping something heavy, because you could put in the smallest if it fits, it ships box, you can put something that might weigh half a pound and it will still cost you about $8 to ship it. So you have to really go on the USPS website and look at what some of the cost on those boxes are. Corrugate boxes, these are just your standard cardboard boxes that you ship, but you want to use shipping boxes. You don't want to use little thin boxes like something you purchased was wrapped in, or boxes that are moving boxes, because they do not stand the rigors of shipping. You also have shipping tubes. Shipping tubes are good for long, skinny things. We do a lot of sending Little League baseball bats and softball bats back for repair, and tubes are great for things like that. You also want to have some good shipping tape, and it's available. You can buy packs of it over at Sam's for not a lot, and I would always keep good shipping tape on hand. Okay, next slide. You also need to think about what materials are you going to put in these boxes that's going to protect your items. And like I said, the poly bags do a lot to protect items. I like the foam wrap. It's kind of like bubble wrap, but it's flat and it's real easy to wrap around items to protect. If you were shipping a stem glass, it's really good. You can wrap it around the stem and then wrap the whole glass. Bubble wrap, we're all familiar with that. It comes in small bubbles, large bubbles, but it's a good protectant of what you're going to be shipping. Then the other items is craft paper. 1 pound craft paper is good to stuff the box with. You don't want anything moving around inside the box, because that's what thing gets damaged. The other ones are kind of specialized packing. Styrofoam, plank styrofoam, is used to brace heavy things or to keep them from moving. And I added styrofoam peanuts, but those are being so phased out, and they're getting very expensive because they're petroleum based, but they're also used as what we call fill, is what you put around to make sure that stuff's not moving around. You never want to pack items with newspaper or tissue paper, because if they did get damaged, they will not pay a claim on things like that. Okay, next item. A lot of the online platforms have their shipping embedded in there, and you go in and you start using your measurements and your weight. I do recommend that you purchase you a postal scale that goes up to at least 50 pounds so that you can get a more accurate weight on things. And I'm most familiar with eBay because we sell a little of this, a little of that through antiques and just collectible kind of things. And the first one I go to is postal, just because it's usually the less expensive. Again, shipping can add a lot to your particular item if you're not paying real close attention, or if you're putting in the wrong dimensions. With postal, the least that you can get by with is if things are under a pound, you can do first class package. And if it's under a half a pound, it tends to be between $2 and $3. I know Barry mentioned free shipping. That's a good place to consider free shipping, because you can add a couple of dollars to what your item would be, and then you're pretty well covered for what you're shipping out. If it goes over that, if it goes over a pound, it's automatically going to push you up into priority mail, and then it just goes up from that. I don't really like eBay's platform for shipping UPS, because The last time I tried it, it wanted me to put a UPS to apply for and get my own number and a lot of things like that. So you're probably just as well, if you're wanting to ship something UPS or FedEx, is to take it to one of the shipping outlets and let them help you with that. International can be tricky. You have to have a lot of information with international. eBay makes it pretty easy because you pay actually a domestic rate to get it to Kentucky, where it goes out as a container shipment. But the customer on the other end, there's some pretty hefty fees that they get hit with duties and taxes, and I think there's even maybe a brokerage fee that gets added in there. So unless I've had a lot of difficulty with it, because the international people will just, they'll buy something and then they won't pay for the shipping. So then it kind of becomes a problem. But it's worth doing. I have made several international sales, but you really need to find out how to work around that and to try and get it in the smallest box that it would be safe in, to cut down on the shipping. The fourth one, you probably are not going to be able to process through the platform, but you certainly can sell furniture. You can sell large items, and there are freight services available. You probably would want to work with somebody who does freight and does brokering, because if you go to a shipping company and you are don't already have an account with them and everything, you're going to be paying full retail pricing on that plus some. I would encourage everybody to go to all of the websites for USPS, UPS, FedEx, and check out some of the things that they talk about and some of their pricing, and it'll help you get a good idea of what items would be a good thing to start off your shipping with. Okay, next scene. I'm a big believer that if you are a brick and mortar store and you're selling the same thing all of the time, that you can use shipping to drive return business back to your store. And I say this because it will help you with reducing some of those fees that you get if you're selling online, but you get the customer from selling online. I always recommend, if you're selling multiple items, use new boxes. There's several companies that sell packaging materials. Uline is the one that I go to most often. And you can buy multiple boxes that are the size you need, and then you can take care of some marketing along with that. You can order a roll of 1,000 decals that has the name of your business and your logo on it to put on the outside of the box. You can produce flyers or bounce back coupons that you can put inside that list other things you sell, your price list, how to get in touch with you. So if a customer bought a lipstick from you and they really loved it, they could call you back. And like I said, it does help to market not only online, but then it helps to market your store. And the final, next slide, is here's some best practices when you are shipping. Select items that are small and easy to ship for online. Purchase shipping and packing materials in bulk so that you have it available and you're not running around for half a day trying to find a box. Invest in a good postal shipping scale. Check all of the shipping websites that determine if something you're selling would be considered to be hazardous material. Add a charge for packing and handling. I know several people that go on there and they don't do this. They don't. There's a place that you can add. I usually put $1 to $3 for packaging and handling. And add that needs to be in there for your shipping costs because you're paying for it. Offer free shipping on small things, but you need to add the shipping cost into what you're charging for your item. If you're selling something extremely expensive or extremely fragile, you would probably want to deal with one of the shipping stores to let them do that. And I say that because they are trained in how to package things like that. And if you have a damage on that, you really don't want them denying that because of insufficient packaging. And use online sales to drive customers to your store by including marketing information in the box. And final slide. These are some of the websites that you would probably want to go and look up and just become familiar with, and gives you some good idea. Uline, as I said, is a really good place for ordering shipping supplies if you're using the same size box and everything that you can then have online. And I do appreciate being with you this afternoon.
Sorry about that. I had to switch around and unmute and a number of things. We've got a lot of questions. So Barry, are you still around? Good, good. I will start with Sheila. This is probably more for you, but Barry, you may have experience. Is there a way to process USPS first class postage from home for lighter weight packages? You're muted, Sheila. Sorry. You're still now. There you go. Now speak.
Did you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Is there an easier way to process USPS first class postage from home for lighter weight packages?
You can set up an account on the USPS website. There's also some other companies, and you may get some discounts with. I know there's an Indicia, they used to be stamps.com, that you can sign up for, and then you can actually process your shipping right there at home. You can print your label right there at home, stick it on, and just drop it in the post office.
We probably ship 20 to 30 packages a day, some days from home that are first class. We bought a Zebra 4x6 label printer, although there are others. Great investment if you're going to do that. And we use PayPal shipping. You get all the commercial discounts, and you can ship priority or first class or whatever. It is primarily for USPS, although FedEx and UPS are available, one of the two. And then there's also Pirate Ship. I have not used that one personally, but it is a highly recommended tool that a lot of our friends that are in similar businesses as us use. To Sheila's point, there's all kinds of options out there. I have also gone through the USPS website and set up an account there. They have you download a software, and it works pretty well for bulk shipping of the same weight. But I really keep going back to PayPal. If you have a PayPal account, it's my preference. Just pick one you like and stick with it. But yes, the answer is yes, you can absolutely do that.
Great. Okay, how do we set up the UPS account for PayPal? We charge our buyers shipping and want to use PayPal instead of a credit card at the UPS store. Is that a possibility?
I'm not real sure about setting up UPS account. I know when I've tried to do it through eBay, which I guess goes over into PayPal, they almost want you to go to UPS and set you up an account, and then you plug in your account number when you go to that option.
Okay.
I would agree. I accidentally set up a UPS account from eBay through PayPal, and exactly like Sheila said, it set me up with a UPS number, and I have been able to field about 20 calls from UPS wanting to know why I set up a business account and very interested in expanding my shipping capabilities, and on it went. Oh my goodness. I'm no help, but yes, it is possible, and Sheila's right. eBay to PayPal, it is possible, but you'll probably get some calls from UPS.
Okay.
And they probably will charge you things like billing cost, and I haven't used it myself, but I know for someone, I always tell people, if you're not shipping, if they get their own account number, if you're not shipping over 10 packages a week, you're paying full retail cost on it. And then they add in things like billing cost and pickup fees if you have it picked up at your house. So those are things you need to check on if you do decide to go that route.
Excellent point, Sheila. Even if I do end up printing my own shipping, unless it's USPS, then I take it to a drop-off, because generally you are going to have to start paying some fees if you want to act like your house is a business and you don't ship a whole lot. Excellent thing to add.
Another good question that is important to me, because I'm a chocoholic, are there any suggestions for protecting chocolate from melting? Small amount with other items. So if you're sending something out and you may have some dry goods, but you've also got chocolate, how can she package that to keep it from melting?
And that's particularly bad during the summer. I know I order Virginia peanuts, and they won't ship their chocolate ones without giving you a hefty charge to it in the summer. But my suggestion is that you go ahead and freeze the chocolate. Put it in a plastic bag and freeze it. And then you send it by a more expedited method, because they are going through hubs that aren't air conditioned. They're in trucks that aren't air conditioned. So you would want to send it by probably a quicker method. If it, say you were sending it that someplace it was going to be 3 or 4 days in transit.
I would just eat the chocolate and only ship it in the winter. I'm no help at all.
Yeah. And you really want to make sure you've got things like that in a plastic bag, just on the off chance that it does melt. Same thing with if you're shipping liquids of any kind. You want to make sure you've got them in some kind of a plastic bag when you're putting them in, because the tops come off, or there could get a leak in the bottle, and if there's other things in the box, it just destroys them.
Okay, Barry, this may be more for you, but we'll see. Are there any other platform options, for example, Wix, Weebly, GoDaddy, that are good, that have good marketing advantages of larger platforms?
That's a great question, and the answer is generally no, but here's why. Wix, Weebly, GoDaddy, the site builders that are sort of, hey, in one day you can have a professional looking website. With the exception of Shopify and, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank. There's one other, if it hits me, I'll let you know. Generally speaking, any of those that are quick and easy are generally not very good, and here's why. They try to oversimplify it to a degree that your site doesn't allow you to customize it the way you want it. It doesn't automatically integrate with a lot of the shipping platforms like Sheila's been talking about, so you've got to do that totally separately. And then you end up sort of frustrated and aggravated at the whole thing. Similarly, as I've talked about eBay, Etsy, and Amazon, I personally also have some sites that are just websites that I use WooCommerce, which is a plugin on. But if that website isn't already getting traffic, then you're not going to sell anything, because they have to come to your site and know that you're there. Whereas with an eBay, people are going to come to eBay all the time and search. Amazon, all the time in search. Etsy, all the time in search. So you've already got an immediate benefit. Now, if you already have an existing web presence and people are visiting your website and purposefully coming, and you just say, hey, while you're here, why don't you buy some stuff? Then great, go for it. There are platforms and plugins that can add on to your existing website to make it e-commerce. My preference, and I've mentioned it a couple times, is WooCommerce, W-O-O Commerce. It's a free or premium plugin that's primarily available for WordPress-based websites. I've set that up on probably 25 or 30 different websites, and it works very well. It can be as complicated or as simple as you need it to be. And just the thing to remember is if you already have a website and people are coming, then those kinds of things are a good idea. If you don't already have a bunch of website traffic, you're not magically going to get a bunch of website traffic just because you now have a store on that website.
We actually had someone do a presentation, a webinar or a new knowledge on WooCommerce, and I was just trying to look it up real quick. But if you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/new knowledge, look up in the archives, you will find one. Mickey Barker did that, I want to say about 2 years ago, could have been 3 years ago. Time flies when you're having fun, but it was on WooCommerce. Now,
the other one, I'm sorry to interrupt, is I finally remembered Squarespace. If that you're going to build and you want somebody to do it for you and make it easy, you pay more per month. But I have a lot of friends who have used Squarespace quite successfully. But just like everything else, it's going to be you already have a website and you want to make it an e-commerce website because you already have the traffic and you just now want to let people buy from you. So I couldn't remember it until just now. So sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Do either one of you have any experience with Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist?
I've sold on both, but it's always just like extra stuff. I have this laying around. Like right now, I have lumber listed from my old shop, and I don't have quite enough room to store it in the new house. So I've got some lumber listed and have sold several things that way. I've sold some tools and similar on Craigslist, but not as a professional seller, just stuff that I want gone.
We've sold on Craigslist and also bought off of Craigslist, but it normally is pickup only. I haven't seen any way that you can ship on Craigslist. And the other one, I know people who sell on Facebook Marketplace, but I'm not too sure how well they do. It's usually almost like eBay is everybody shopping for a bargain and wanting to argue you down from your price and everything.
Yeah, that's been my experience with Facebook Marketplace. And used to be you would join all these groups, this yard sale group this and yard sale group that. There's several even locally. And Facebook, when they launched Marketplace, it's basically a large yard sale group. Although you can buy new things, generally speaking, it's people looking for bargains and they want to bargain with you. And you're not normally going to ship. You're going to meet somewhere in a parking lot or whatever.
I know both of you mentioned PayPal. Is that predominantly the one that you take all of your online transactions for payment? Is it PayPal, or do you use Square, or use the system that you're using, or the market that you're using?
It's normally through whatever platform you're selling through. They have a method for that. I know eBay is always PayPal, or it is for me.
Yeah, Etsy has its own. eBay goes to PayPal. Amazon has its own. It just depends. But I actually, if I'm doing a transaction through Facebook Marketplace and they want to pay digitally, I will point them to PayPal because it's just so easy. There is a fee. It's a small percentage, like 2.9%, I think, plus a 30-cent transaction fee. Just pad that in. But PayPal is an easy way that most people are familiar with. You can send them an invoice and all that good stuff. So I use it quite a bit. And
it's also safer because of selling online. Something you always have to keep in mind is there's a lot of fraud goes on with credit cards if you're accepting credit cards. And that's also true of international shipping. There's countries that I just hesitate to even ship to because of all of the fraud with stolen credit card numbers.
Well, and right now there's a lot of countries you can't ship to from the U.S. because of the virus, which is even messier. But yes, you're right.
I just wanted to point out that if people want a list of past new knowledge sessions, you can go to the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator and find those with a direct link to YouTube to find those. Kathy Lowe at the incubator suggested that. One other thing, and Sheila, we touched on that this morning before the session started, is regarding returns, especially for those that purchase from Amazon. How do you handle returns for both what you're selling, and then of course, Sheila, it might be good for people to understand exactly how Amazon returns happen for the UPS store.
Oh, well, the UPS store is an Amazon return center, and mainly for what they call container management. So if you buy a pair of shoes and you're returning it to Amazon, you just bring the shoes in and it's scanned, and you normally get your refund fairly quickly. But then those are packaged along with probably 25, 30 other items in a box and shipped out once a week. So it cuts down the Amazon return cost. And some people also will print out a shipping label and have their box and everything. So that's if you're sending it back. I'm not real certain, since I don't sell on Amazon, I don't know a lot about returning on Amazon. I know on eBay, I end up having to just eat the return cost and refund it back to the customer.
Same with you, Barry?
Yeah, same here. Anytime somebody wants to return something, I just cringe a little and know that I'm going to end up eating it. But that's also why in my presentation I talk about, please be super specific, give all the details you can possibly think of up front, and just know that occasionally people aren't going to be happy no matter what. And I'd never fuss about a return with that customer, because I'm going to lose. All the policies that are out there are benefit the buyer, not the seller. And so if somebody says, I want a refund, you might as well just roll with it and eat the loss and move on.
The other thing are the people who bid and buy it, but they never pay for it. And you have to go through all of the hassle of asking the platform to get in contact with them. And it's usually like 2 weeks you have to wait before anything's ever resolved.
Someone just posted that some sellers on Amazon will not allow you to cancel or return an item. Buyer beware. Yes, that's do business with sometimes with those that you've got experience with. Listen, we're just a few minutes over our time, which is always great, which means you pulled everybody in and they were absorbing everything that you said. Sheila, Barry, thanks so much for your time. I know that it takes time to develop a presentation and put the content, and we appreciate that. And most of all, I know our audience appreciates your experience and knowledge to share with them. So thank you so much for your time. And this will be posted, this webinar will be posted up on the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator's Facebook page, but it'll also be archived up on YouTube under the New Knowledge section in a few hours. So again, thank you. And we will be sharing the PowerPoint slides with our audience today. So thanks again. We do have a long list of webinars coming up, new knowledge sessions. So I encourage you to keep in contact with us. We will be posting that very soon. I've had that here, and that's what happens when I clean my office, is I've misplaced it, but we will be getting that out on the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator's Facebook page, the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and you'll be seeing that. But we do, every month we have 1 or 2 webinars, so we've got about close to 30 scheduled from now until June of 2021. It's even hard to say that. So again, thank you, and I wish everyone continued success. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Sandy. Bye.